Most people live their entire lives inside a prison they cannot see. It has no bars, no locks, no armed guards. Its walls are made of thoughts, its ceilings woven from quiet fears, and its floor built on the assumptions they have never dared to question. This prison is the mind untended, untrained, and left to run on the programming it absorbed when we were too young to choose for ourselves. We do not recognize it as a prison because it feels like home. It feels normal. And yet this invisible confinement determines where we go, how far we rise, and what we will ever achieve. You can be free in body and still enslaved in spirit. You can be living in a country of boundless opportunity and still feel trapped, powerless, and uncertain. And until you understand the nature of this prison, you will mistake the cage for the world and the key for a myth. From the moment you were born, you began absorbing ideas, not your own, but those of the people and environment around you. You inherited beliefs about money, about your own worth, about what is possible and what is not. You learned how to think about success and, perhaps more dangerously, how to think about failure. Much of what you carry in your mind today is not truth. It is simply conditioning. Like a ship set adrift without a rudder, your course was decided by the winds of other people's fears, the currents of their limitations, and the storms of their doubt. This conditioning does not announce itself. It lives quietly in the background, whispering in moments of decision, pulling you back when you dare to reach forward. And because it is familiar, you call it reality. But reality is not fixed. It is molded every day by those who have learned to master their thoughts instead of being mastered by them. The tragedy is not that the prison exists. The tragedy is that it is self-maintained. We reinforce it every time we speak about what we cannot do, every time we agree with someone else's limitation, every time we repeat the same small thinking that kept our parents and their parents before them in the same place. Imagine a man who has the strength to lift the gates of his cell but has been told since birth that the gates are immovable. He never tries. He dies inside that cell, not because the bars were too strong, but because his mind believed they were. We are that man when we surrender to the idea that life is just the way it is. The difference between the haves and the have-nots is rarely intelligence, talent, or luck. It is the ability to see that the bars are not real and the courage to walk beyond them. You must understand this. Every belief you hold that limits you is a story, and every story can be rewritten. If you were told that money is scarce, you can replace it with the truth that wealth flows toward those who create value. If you were told you are not capable, you can replace it with the truth that capability grows with discipline and learning. If you were told that your circumstances define you, you can replace it with the truth that it is you who define your circumstances. The prison dissolves when you realize it was never built from facts, only from agreements. You agreed, consciously or unconsciously, to the smallness that others offered you. The moment you refuse that agreement, the chains begin to fall. This is where awareness becomes power. The mind is not an enemy, it is a tool. And like any tool, its effectiveness depends on how you use it. An untrained mind will obey its oldest programming, but a trained mind will bend reality to match the vision it holds. The great law is simple. We become what we think about most of the time. Say it now, quietly or aloud. We become what we think about most of the time. Write it down, let it sink in. This is not opinion. This is not motivational fluff. This is cause and effect. Your life today is the result of your dominant thoughts yesterday, last year, and the years before that. Change the thoughts, and in time you change the life. To step beyond the prison, you must first see the bars. Every time you tell yourself, I can't, I'm not ready, or that's just the way it is, recognize it for what it is, the voice of the warden you've carried in your head since childhood. That voice has no authority except the authority you give it. It does not command you, it suggests, it persuades, it warns you away from the unknown. But the unknown is where freedom lives. The great irony is that everything you want, every dream, every breakthrough, every leap forward sits just outside the perimeter of that prison. The door is open. You simply have to walk through it, again and again, until the walls lose their power. There is no partial escape. You cannot keep one foot in the old thought patterns and expect to be free. The moment you begin training your mind to think in terms of possibility, abundance, and self-responsibility, you will notice the resistance. It will show up as doubt, as fear, as the temptation to retreat to familiar thinking. Do not be alarmed by it. That is the sign you are approaching the edges of your mental cage. That is when you must push forward. Write new laws for yourself and repeat them until they become your default state of mind. A mind without new laws will always revert to the old ones. Let me give you one such law. Say it aloud, write it, and keep it where you will see it every day. I am one with wealth and wisdom, free of fear and doubt. This is not wishful thinking, it is a command to your subconscious. The mind does not resist repetition, it thrives on it. Just as it learned the old beliefs through years of hearing them, it will learn the new beliefs if you feed them daily. Each time you repeat this law, you are taking a file to the bars of your cell, and in time those bars will be too weak to hold you. You are not here to live as a prisoner. You are here to explore the full measure of your potential, to serve through the unique talents you've been given, and to enjoy the rewards that naturally come to those who contribute more than they consume. The prison of the mind is dismantled not in one grand gesture, but in the daily practice of thought control, self-discipline, and conscious choice. Every moment you replace a limiting belief with a liberating one, you are one step closer to the freedom that most people will never know. And when you reach that freedom, you will look back and wonder why you ever believed the bars were real. Freedom of the mind is not granted by governments, inherited through bloodlines, or bestowed by chance. It is taken deliberately by the individual who decides that living bound by inherited limitations is no longer acceptable. The truth is, very few will ever make that decision. Most will defend their prison as if it were a castle. They will argue for their own limitations, point to their past as proof of what they cannot do, and find comfort in the familiar routines that quietly suffocate them. And if you dare to step outside your own cell, you may notice something strange. Others will try to pull you back inside. Not because they are cruel, but because your freedom challenges their excuses. The moment you begin to think and act differently, you disrupt the silent agreement everyone else has made to stay the same. It is easier for them if you remain predictable, but ease is the enemy of growth. Remember this: what is comfortable is rarely transformative, and what is transformative is rarely comfortable. When you first choose to leave the mental prison, you will likely find yourself walking into a fog. The open space of possibility feels strange compared to the sharp boundaries you once knew. Decisions that were once made for you by your conditioning now rest entirely on your shoulders. This is where many turn back, not because the path forward is blocked, but because the responsibility feels too heavy. They have grown accustomed to blaming circumstances, luck, or other people. But in the realm of true freedom, there is no one left to blame. This can feel terrifying until you realize that the same truth which removes excuses also places the power entirely in your hands. From this moment forward, your results will mirror your thoughts, your choices, and your persistence. If you wish to know your future, you need only examine what you are thinking about today. Understand that the prison you escaped still exists in your mind as a pattern. The grooves of your old thinking are deep, carved by years of repetition. Like a wagon wheel that follows the same ruts in a dirt road, your mind will try to slip back into its old track. You must be vigilant, not just for days or weeks, but for as long as you wish to remain free. This vigilance is not a burden, it is a discipline. Just as a gardener must continually pull weeds to protect the harvest, you must continually pull out the thoughts that lead you back to confinement. The weeds will always try to grow, but so will the seeds you plant. The choice of which will dominate is yours alone. One of the most powerful ways to maintain your freedom is to take control of the information you feed your mind. Most people guard their homes with locks and alarms, but leave their minds wide open to whatever passes by. They consume news designed to keep them fearful, gossip designed to keep them small, and entertainment designed to keep them distracted. And they wonder why they feel powerless. You cannot fill your mind with poison and expect it to produce health. You cannot sow seeds of scarcity and expect to harvest abundance. Take ownership of what you allow inside your mind, for whatever enters will take root. If you want wealth in thought, speak wealth, read wealth, listen to wealth, study those who have built it with integrity. If you want wisdom, consume wisdom daily until it shapes the very language you think in. Freedom also demands that you redefine failure. In the prison, failure is final. It is proof that you should not have tried. In the open, failure is information. It tells you what does not work so that you can find what does. Every great success is built on a foundation of failed attempts. The difference between those who remain trapped and those who thrive is not the absence of failure, but the refusal to interpret it as defeat. You are not your mistakes. You are the meaning you give to them. When you decide that each failure is merely a lesson, you become unstoppable. The chains cannot hold you because you no longer fear the things that once kept you still. Let me share with you a law worth repeating until it becomes part of your identity. I turn every setback into a stepping stone. Write it down, say it often, see it in your mind when challenges appear. This is not just a positive thought. It is a command to your subconscious to search for the advantage in every difficulty. Your mind is a servant. It will follow the orders you give it most consistently. If you tell it that setbacks are signals to quit, it will obey. If you tell it that setbacks are steps toward your goal, it will obey that instead. Either way, your thoughts become your reality. In this new space beyond the prison, time takes on a different quality. You begin to see that each day is a fresh chance to shape your mind, and through it, your life. No day is wasted unless you allow it to be. The hours you once filled with distraction can now be invested in building skills, deepening understanding, and strengthening your vision. The energy you once spent on worry can now be redirected toward creation. And the habits that once kept you small can be replaced by habits that expand your capacity to serve, to earn, and to live fully. You realize that freedom is not a single moment, it is a daily choice. As you continue, you may notice something extraordinary. The walls of the prison were never solid, they were made of fog. The moment you walk through them, they vanish. And in their place, you find an open horizon, waiting to be shaped by the thoughts you choose to hold. But you must keep walking, because if you stand still too long, the fog will gather again, and the old walls will reappear. Freedom is maintained by movement, by continual growth, by the pursuit of higher aims, and by the refusal to settle for the comfort of the cage. Each day, ask yourself, am I walking toward freedom or back toward the cell? The answer will be found not in what you intend, but in what you do. The prison you didn't know you were in was never about the world, it was about the world inside your head. Now that you see it, you have a choice. You can remain free by guarding your mind, feeding it truth, and commanding it with laws that serve you, or you can drift back into the old patterns that will quietly close the door behind you. Decide now, and decide every day. And as you do, remember the law. I turn every setback into a stepping stone. For the one who lives by it, there is no wall too high, no bar too strong, no cell too secure. There is only the open road ahead. There comes a point in every journey out of the prison where you realize that the true battle is not against the bars, but against the part of you that grew comfortable behind them. The habits, the reflexes, the quiet reliance on limitation, all of these are parts of yourself you will need to outgrow. And growth by its very nature demands discomfort. A muscle does not strengthen without resistance, and neither does the mind. Every time you push into a new level of discipline, every time you take a step that feels too big, you are stretching the limits of what you believe you can do. This is why the path to freedom is not lined with comfort, but with challenges designed to call forth the best in you. The prisoner sees these challenges as walls. The free man sees them as gates. One of the most powerful shifts you can make is to change the way you see time. Inside the prison, time is endured. It is something to be passed, filled, or killed. Outside, time is capital. It is the most valuable asset you will ever own, and every day is an opportunity to invest it wisely. When you begin to treat your hours as investments, you stop wasting them on things that do not move you forward. You become intentional about your mornings, protective of your evenings, and disciplined with what fills the space in between. The truth is that wealth, mastery, and deep satisfaction are simply the compounded returns of how you spend your time. Waste it, and you lose not just minutes, but the future those minutes could have built. Guard it, and you will see it multiply into results you once thought were unreachable. Another truth you will confront outside the prison is that freedom and responsibility cannot be separated. In fact, they are the same thing viewed from different angles. Responsibility is freedom in disguise. The more responsibility you take for your outcomes, your environment, and your direction, the less you are controlled by forces outside yourself. Many people avoid responsibility because they mistake it for a burden, but the truth is that it is the key that opens the widest doors. The man who refuses responsibility will always be at the mercy of others' decisions. The man who embraces it becomes the architect of his own fate. And when you finally see responsibility as liberation, you will stop running from it and start seeking it. To remain free, you must also cultivate the ability to think deeply. The modern world rewards quick reactions, instant opinions, and shallow analysis. It punishes stillness and reflection as if they were signs of weakness. But the free mind understands that depth is power. The great breakthroughs in wealth, science, art, and human progress have come not from the frantic and distracted, but from those willing to think longer, harder, and more clearly than anyone else. A single hour of deep thought can save you years of wasted effort. Set aside time each day to think without distraction. Let your mind work through problems instead of burying them under noise. In that quiet, you will find answers that the prison's constant chatter could never give you. Discipline will be the spine that holds all your progress upright. Without it, even the most powerful insights collapse under the weight of inaction. Discipline is not punishment, it is alignment. It is the steady agreement between your actions and your goals. It is doing what you said you would do, long after the mood in which you said it has faded. The disciplined individual does not wait for motivation, they move on command. This is how you close the gap between who you are and who you intend to be. And every time you keep a promise to yourself, you strengthen the mental muscles that will carry you forward when others fall back. The further you travel into freedom, the more you will see the value of clarity. Most people drift because they do not know precisely what they want. They confuse vague wishes with definite aims. But a mind without a clear target will aim at nothing and hit it every time. Clarity is the mark of the free. It transforms your daily actions from random effort into deliberate progress. It allows you to say no without guilt and yes without hesitation. It strips away distractions because anything that does not serve your aim becomes irrelevant. The prisoner asks, "What should I do?" The free man asks, "Does this move me closer to my aim?" And if the answer is no, he moves on. Let me give you another law, one that anchors the mind in strength and direction. I live with clarity of purpose, and my steps are deliberate and sure. Write it, speak it, see it before you act. This law will cut through the fog of indecision and keep you on a path of steady progress. It will remind you that freedom is not just the absence of restraint, but the presence of aim. Every time you repeat it, you are sharpening the image of the life you are building and removing the temptation to wander. In protecting your freedom, beware of the lure of instant gratification. Inside the prison, instant pleasure is the currency of survival. It distracts from the discomfort of limitation. Outside, it becomes a trap. Every moment spent chasing what feels good now at the expense of what you truly want later is a step back toward the cell. This is not to say you should deny yourself joy, but rather that you must learn to distinguish between joy that strengthens you and indulgence that weakens you. True satisfaction is found in building something that endures, not in the fleeting rush of the moment. The free individual learns to trade the easy reward now for the greater reward later, and in doing so, they create a life worth waking up to. Finally, understand that freedom is cumulative. Each disciplined choice strengthens the foundation for the next. Each day of clarity makes the next decision easier. Each hour invested wisely multiplies its returns. And as the years pass, you will find that the prison is not only behind you, it is no longer even visible on your horizon. You will have built a life so rooted in purpose, discipline, and clarity that the thought of confinement will feel like a distant memory from another lifetime. That is when you will know that you are not just free, you are unshakably free. If you want to know whether you are truly free or merely imagining it, look at the results in your life. Freedom is not a feeling alone. It is measurable in the opportunities you create, the goals you pursue, and the level of responsibility you take for both your successes and your failures. The mind loves to believe it has changed simply because it has been inspired for a moment, but inspiration without transformation is just another form of entertainment. True freedom is demonstrated in the discipline to act consistently with the truth you now know. It is in choosing the difficult but necessary path when the easy one calls your name. It is in saying no to what weakens you and yes to what strengthens you, even when no one else will notice. The man or woman who is truly free has stopped asking, "What will they think of me?" and has started asking, "What will I think of myself if I do this or if I don't?" The invisible prison trains people to measure their worth by comparison. They look to the left, then to the right, asking, "Am I doing better than him? Am I further along than her?" This is one of the most cunning traps of the mind, for it keeps you focused outward, where you have no control, rather than inward, where all control resides. When your value depends on the movement of others, you will forever live as a prisoner of their progress. But the free mind understands that the only race worth running is against your own potential. The only comparison worth making is between who you were yesterday and who you are becoming today. You were not born to be a copy, but a creation, and creation demands that you stop measuring your worth by someone else's ruler. Another sign that the prison still holds influence is the way you handle uncertainty. In the cell, you avoid it at all costs, because uncertainty feels like danger. Outside, you begin to see that uncertainty is simply unclaimed territory, possibility in disguise. The most rewarding opportunities you will ever find are hidden inside uncertainty. They are not announced with fanfare, nor marked with signs saying, "Here lies your breakthrough." They appear as risks, as unknown ventures, as roads without clear maps, and the untrained mind will retreat from them every time. But the trained mind steps forward, knowing that growth is never found in the familiar. This is why the free individual learns to welcome uncertainty, not because it guarantees success, but because it guarantees movement, and movement is the lifeblood of freedom. To thrive in freedom, you must learn to think like an owner. In the prison, the mindset is that of a renter, someone who uses what is given, follows the rules set by others, and hands back the keys when asked. But in freedom, you are the owner. You build, you maintain, you improve, and you take full responsibility for the state of your mind and your life. Ownership means you stop waiting for permission to act. It means you stop blaming conditions, the economy, or the approval of others for your results. It means that every day you ask, if my life were a business, would I invest in it? If the answer is no, then you know where your work lies. Ownership does not happen in a single decision. It happens in every decision, repeated until it becomes your nature. Guarding your freedom also requires the courage to face yourself without excuses. Most people avoid deep self-reflection because it reveals uncomfortable truths. They distract themselves with noise, work, or endless goals that keep them too busy to ask the most important questions. Am I living in alignment with my values? Am I building the life I truly want, or just the one that is easiest to explain to others? Have I allowed comfort to dull my edge? These are questions the prisoner avoids at all costs, but the free man seeks them out. For it is only in facing yourself honestly that you can direct yourself wisely. To ignore these questions is to drift. To answer them is to steer. In your new life outside the prison, you will also find that your associations matter more than you once realized. The people you spend time with are either reinforcing your freedom or reinforcing your old confinement. There is no neutral influence. A single conversation can plant a seed of limitation that, if left unchallenged, will grow into a bar across your path. Likewise, a single exchange with someone of vision can lift you beyond what you thought possible. This is why you must choose your company with intention. Spend time with those who remind you of your potential, not your past. Speak with those who challenge you to rise, not those who invite you to sink. Freedom flourishes in the presence of those who are free themselves. Let me give you another law to write down, to speak aloud until it lives in the marrow of your bones. I rise above the noise of doubt and walk in the clarity of my vision. Say it now. This is not just a statement, it is a shield. The world is full of noise, opinions, fears, demands, distractions. If you do not consciously rise above it, you will drown in it. Your vision is your compass, and clarity is the water that keeps it clean. Every time you declare this law, you remind yourself that you are guided from within, not pulled from without. In maintaining your freedom, you must also be wary of one of the prison's most subtle chains, the chain of small compromises. No one wakes up one day back inside the cell. They arrive there one quiet surrender at a time. They accept a lower standard for their health. They let a small dishonesty slip into their work. They tolerate a little more mediocrity than they once swore they would. And before they realize it, they have traded their edge for comfort, their discipline for ease, and their vision for safety. Freedom requires that you catch these small compromises before they take root. It demands that you hold the line even when no one else is watching. Finally, know this. Freedom is not an event, it is a lifestyle. It is not won once and kept forever without effort. It must be renewed, protected, and expanded daily. The person who believes they have arrived will soon find themselves drifting back into the same patterns they thought they left behind. But the one who understands that freedom is a practice will grow stronger with each passing year. They will not only remain free, they will help others see the bars they cannot yet see and walk them to the open door. There will come a stage in your journey when the absence of chains will feel almost unnatural. You may wake one morning and realize there is no one to tell you what to do, no external authority forcing your hand, no system dictating your every move. At first, this feels like pure liberation, but soon you discover that freedom without self-direction can be a dangerous place. Many who escape the prison lose themselves here. They drift not back into confinement, but into stagnation. The walls may be gone, but without a chosen path, they circle endlessly in open space. Freedom is not simply the absence of restriction, it is the disciplined use of choice. The real test begins when you realize that every step forward now depends entirely on you. In this stage, you must become your own source of momentum. In the prison, the rhythm of your days was set by someone else. Outside, you will feel the weight of shaping that rhythm yourself. This is why you must establish non-negotiable habits, anchors that keep you steady no matter how unpredictable life becomes. Wake at the time you've chosen, not the time your mood suggests. Begin your day with intention, not distraction. Have a plan before the world can hand you its plan for you. These small but deliberate actions create the foundation for bigger achievements because they train your mind to follow through on command without the need for external pressure. The mind in freedom requires fuel just as the body does, and that fuel is vision, clear, compelling, and specific. Without vision, your actions lose meaning, and without meaning, your energy will drain. Think of vision as the coordinates in your navigation system. Without them, you may be moving fast, but you will not know where you're going. The prisoner's life is reactive, the free person's life is directional. Your vision must be big enough to inspire you, clear enough to guide you, and real enough that you can feel it when you close your eyes. Write it down. Return to it daily. Every decision you make should be weighed against it. Does this bring me closer or take me further away? One of the greatest advantages of freedom is that you can now design your environment to serve your growth. In the prison, the environment was fixed. You adapted to it. Outside, you have the power to shape it, and you must do so with care. Your environment should remind you of who you are becoming, not who you were. Fill your space with books that challenge your thinking, tools that build your skills, and symbols of the goals you are pursuing. Surround yourself with people whose standards pull you upward. Create an atmosphere where your desired future feels inevitable because every sight, sound, and influence reinforces it. In time, your environment will act as a silent ally, guiding your mind toward progress, even when your willpower is tired. You will also need to develop the strength to say no. Not just to obvious distractions, but to opportunities that do not align with your purpose. In the early stages of freedom, you may be tempted to say yes to everything, afraid you might miss out. But each yes is also a no to something else. Your time, energy, and attention are limited resources. Spend them with the same discernment you would use in investing your wealth. The most dangerous trap outside the prison is not failure, it is dilution. When your focus is scattered across too many pursuits, none of them grow strong enough to change your life. The free person learns that selective commitment is not loss, it is power. Another discipline you must master is self-audit. Set aside regular moments to step back from your life and ask, am I still on course? Am I honoring the standards I set for myself? Am I closer to my vision today than I was a month ago? These questions keep you from drifting unconsciously. They expose the small deviations before they become dangerous detours. In freedom, there is no warden to correct your path. You are the warden, the architect, and the builder of your own life. The ability to adjust quickly is one of the most valuable skills you can develop. Let me give you another law to ingrain into your thinking. I direct my life with purpose, and every step I take builds my destiny. Say it out loud. Write it until it feels carved into your mind. This law will remind you that every action, no matter how small, is a vote for the future you are creating. It will keep you from treating your days carelessly. The one who understands that destiny is built one step at a time never wastes a step. As you deepen into this stage of freedom, you will also notice that success here is less about speed and more about endurance. Many will sprint ahead of you in the beginning, burning through their energy in a burst of excitement. But freedom is not a race to be finished. It is a life to be sustained. Your pace must be one you can keep for years, not just weeks. The goal is not to exhaust yourself with urgency, but to align your daily actions so consistently with your purpose that progress becomes inevitable. This is why discipline, more than talent or luck, is the true currency of a free life. Finally, you will come to see that the greatest gift of freedom is not just what you achieve for yourself, but what you can create for others. When you have mastered your own mind, built your own path, and proven that you can live outside the prison without drifting back, you become a living example for those still inside. Your life becomes the evidence that freedom is possible, and for some, that evidence will be the spark that changes everything. This is the higher purpose of freedom, to extend it, to multiply it, to leave the world with more open doors than you found. There is a truth that few will tell you, but it is one you must understand if you are to remain free. The prison has no interest in letting you go quietly. The moment you begin to live differently, forces will arise, both from within yourself and from the world around you, to pull you back into the familiar patterns you have escaped. These forces are not always obvious. Sometimes they appear as doubt, as fatigue, as the sudden belief that your progress was just luck. Sometimes they come as subtle criticism from those you know, disguised as concern. You've changed, they might say, as if that were an accusation. And in a way it is, because your growth disrupts the agreement of sameness that keeps most people comfortable. This is why you must develop a resolve that does not sway with the opinions of others. If your freedom can be voted away by popular opinion, it was never freedom to begin with. One of the most cunning tricks of the prison is nostalgia for the very life that once trapped you. The mind, when faced with the challenges of freedom, will sometimes look back at the old cell and remember only its comfort, not its confinement. You will recall the predictability, the absence of risk, the way you could move without thinking too much about the future. But nostalgia is selective. It leaves out the quiet frustration, the unspoken regret, and the dull ache of knowing you were capable of more. When those memories arise, remind yourself that comfort was the bribe the prison offered in exchange for your potential. Do not take it back. To strengthen your hold on freedom, you must commit to continual learning. In the prison, knowledge is rationed. You are taught only enough to function within its walls, never enough to leave them. Outside, you have access to the full expanse of human wisdom, but you must seek it. Study the principles of wealth, of influence, of discipline. Read the lives of those who broke free and built empires of their own making. Learn from their failures as much as from their triumphs. The more you understand the laws that govern success, the harder it becomes for old programming to trap you. Ignorance is one of the prison's strongest chains. Knowledge applied with discipline is the file that cuts it. Another essential habit is to create structure for yourself. Many believe that freedom means doing whatever they want, whenever they want. But that is chaos, not freedom. The man with no schedule is not free. He is at the mercy of every distraction that crosses his path. Structure is the framework that keeps your freedom productive. It is the map that ensures your steps lead somewhere worth going. Decide what your days will look like before the day begins. Guard your priorities from the noise of lesser demands. Remember, discipline creates the space where creativity can flourish. Without it, you will drift. And drifting is the first step back toward confinement. Guard also the vision you have for your life. A vision is not a vague wish, it is a clearly defined destination. Without it, you will be pulled in 1,000 directions by opportunities that are not meant for you. The prisoner's mind is easily distracted, for it has no guiding star. The free mind chooses a direction and moves toward it, adjusting course when needed, but never losing sight of where it is going. Write your vision down. See it daily. Let it be the standard against which you measure your choices. If a decision does not bring you closer to that vision, it is a detour, and detours, no matter how interesting they seem, will cost you more time than you can afford to waste. Let me give you another law to anchor in your thinking. I protect my vision as the captain protects his ship. Say it. Write it. This law will remind you that storms will come and the winds will shift, but the destination remains. A captain does not abandon his course because of rough seas. He adjusts his sails, so must you. Your vision will guide you through the temptations of ease, through the pressure of opinion, and through the doubt that rises when progress feels slow. You must also learn to master your emotions. In the prison, emotions are used to control behavior. Fear keeps people compliant. Anger is directed at false enemies to distract from the real ones. Pleasure is rationed as a reward for obedience. Outside, you are responsible for regulating yourself. This does not mean suppressing what you feel. It means using your emotions as signals, not as masters. When fear arises, you investigate it and act in spite of it. When anger stirs, you channel it into productive action. When joy comes, you allow it to fuel your momentum, not lull you into complacency. Emotional mastery is one of the highest forms of freedom because it ensures that nothing outside yourself can dictate your state of mind. The road ahead will not always be smooth. There will be seasons when progress is fast and visible, and others when it is slow and hidden. In those slower seasons, the temptation to give up will be strongest. This is when you must remember that freedom is not measured in leaps, but in the discipline to keep walking when the excitement has faded. Consistency is the silent force that builds empires and sustains liberation. Anyone can act boldly for a week, few can do so for a year, fewer still for a decade, but those who do are the ones who shape the world. In time, as you strengthen these habits, resisting the pull of old comfort, feeding your mind, building structure, guarding your vision, and mastering your emotions, you will find that the prison no longer has a hold on you. It may still exist for others, but for you it will be as irrelevant as a city you left long ago. You will walk through life with the quiet certainty of one who knows that freedom is not given, it is earned, renewed, and protected daily. And in that certainty, you will inspire others to see the bars they could not see before, and perhaps even walk with them to the edge of the open door. There will come a moment when you realize that the prison you escaped is not a single structure, but a vast network of smaller cells, some built by society, some by culture, and many by your own past self. You may have broken free from one, only to discover another hidden behind it. This is not cause for discouragement, it is cause for vigilance. Each time you dismantle a limitation, you sharpen your ability to spot the next one. Freedom is not a one-time event, it is a lifelong process of uncovering, dismantling, and replacing the beliefs and patterns that hold you back. The deeper you go, the more you will see that the mind's architecture is layered, and that true mastery comes from clearing each floor until nothing remains but an open expanse of possibility. In this ongoing process, the most dangerous cells are not the ones you can see, but the ones that masquerade as virtues. Some people live in the prison of false humility, where they shrink from ambition because they believe wanting more is selfish. Others live in the prison of loyalty to the wrong people, refusing to grow because growth would mean leaving certain relationships behind. Still others are confined by the prison of comfort disguised as contentment, convincing themselves that settling is the same as being grateful. These prisons are tricky because they sound noble. They are supported by sayings, traditions, and even the praise of those who benefit from your staying small. But the free person learns to measure virtue by truth, not by approval. If it limits your growth, it is not virtue, it is a chain. One of the most vital skills you will need now is discernment, the ability to separate truth from noise, principle from trend, lasting wisdom from temporary excitement. The world outside the prison is filled with voices, each claiming to have the path you should follow. If you do not know how to filter them, you will be pulled in every direction until you are more lost than you were before. Discernment is built through experience, but also through the commitment to test every idea against reality. Does it align with your vision? Does it stand the test of time? Does it strengthen you or weaken you? The free mind does not accept ideas unexamined, nor does it reject them out of habit. It tests, it measures, it applies, and it keeps what works. As your freedom deepens, you will also face the prison of your own past victories. This may seem strange, but success can be its own form of confinement if you begin to define yourself only by what you have already done. Achievements can become golden bars, shiny, impressive, but still a cage if they keep you from reaching higher. The danger lies in the temptation to protect your reputation rather than risk it for something greater. The man who will not attempt new things because he fears losing the image of competence he has built has already begun to drift back toward the cell. True freedom requires that you remain a student, that you risk comfort for growth, and that you never allow yesterday's success to be the ceiling for tomorrow's potential. In this phase, patience becomes as important as drive. The prisoner craves immediacy, immediate comfort, immediate certainty, immediate results. The free person understands that the most valuable things in life compound over time. Wealth, mastery, reputation, and legacy are all built on the same principle: small, consistent actions that grow in impact with each passing day. Impatience is the enemy of compounding. It tempts you to abandon the process for something quicker but less enduring. Every time you resist this temptation, you strengthen the foundation of your freedom. Every day you stay the course, you place another unshakable stone in the structure of your future. Let me give you a law for this stage. I measure my life by the seeds I plant, not the speed of the harvest. Say it now, write it where you will see it often. This law will protect you from the prison of impatience and keep your eyes on the true work, consistent, meaningful contribution. The harvest will come when it is ready, and when it does, it will be richer because you refuse to rush it. Another challenge you will face is the subtle return of old identity. The prison will whisper to you in the language of who you used to be, trying to convince you that you were happier, safer, or more accepted back then. This is a lie, but it is persuasive because it is familiar. To guard against it, you must keep expanding your current identity to match the life you are building. Speak about yourself in the language of your future, not your past. See yourself as the person you are becoming and make your decisions from that identity, even before the results fully show. In time, your reality will rise to meet the self-image you have chosen. Finally, you will discover that the highest form of freedom is self-command. It is the ability to direct your thoughts, emotions, and actions toward a chosen end without being pulled off course by impulse, fear, or outside pressure. When you reach this level, the bars that once confined you will no longer even register as obstacles. You will walk through life with the steady confidence of one who knows that the only real prison was the one you allowed in your mind, and that you now hold the master key. When you reach the final stretch of this journey, you begin to see that freedom is not the ultimate destination. It is the starting point for a life of far greater responsibility, impact, and creation. Escaping the prison of the mind is the foundation, but what you build upon that foundation will define your legacy. Freedom gives you the space to dream without restriction, but dreams alone are not enough. They must be turned into structures, systems, and contributions that outlast you. The greatest tragedy is not the person who never escaped the prison, it is the one who did, but used their freedom for nothing of lasting value. Freedom is a gift that demands stewardship. What you do with it will be your answer to the world that once held you. This is why the free person must begin to think generationally. In the prison, your vision is limited to survival. Outside, your vision must extend beyond yourself. Ask, what am I building that will endure? Who will benefit from my work long after I'm gone? How can my life's output become a foundation for others to rise upon? These questions change the way you make decisions. They shift your focus from what is urgent to what is important, from what is temporary to what is timeless. The free mind understands that a legacy is not built in a single act. It is the sum of disciplined choices repeated over a lifetime. In this stage, you also see that freedom and service are inseparable. When you were confined, the idea of service may have seemed like just another demand on your already limited energy. But now you realize that true service is not depletion, it is multiplication. The more you pour into others from a place of strength, the more your own freedom deepens. You begin to understand the great paradox. The more you give, the more you grow. The more you invest in others, the more solid and unshakable your own foundation becomes. Service is not a loss, it is the proof that your freedom is real enough to share. Another truth reveals itself here. The world still has prisons, and they are not all made of stone or steel. They are built of fear, ignorance, and resignation. And while you can never drag someone out before they are ready, you can light the path and leave the door open. You do this by example, by conversation, by showing what is possible through your own life. The free person never preaches from a distance. They live close enough for others to see the texture of their choices. They do not demand that others follow. They simply make their own path so clear that it cannot be ignored. At this level, self-mastery becomes your highest priority. You no longer measure success only by external accomplishments, but by the steadiness of your mind, the purity of your intention, and the alignment between what you believe and what you do. The storms still come, but you remain anchored. Distractions still appear, but they do not pull you away. You are no longer moved by every opinion, no longer controlled by fleeting moods. Your sense of self is rooted in principles that do not change when the circumstances do. And because of this, your presence alone becomes a stabilizing force for those around you. Let me give you one final law, the crown of all the others. I live as the master of my mind, the architect of my life, and the giver of my gifts. Say it aloud. Write it. Let it be the seal on the life you are building. This law will remind you that freedom is not just about escape, it is about authorship. You write the script, you design the structure, you decide the purpose. And when you do it with discipline, courage, and service, you create something that no prison can ever take away. In this place, there is no nostalgia for the cell, no longing for the old comfort, no temptation to shrink back into the safety of smallness. You have outgrown it entirely. The walls that once towered over you are now nothing but shadows on the ground. You walk forward not with the desperate urgency of someone running from something, but with the calm certainty of someone walking towards something greater. Your life is not just free, it is full, it is deliberate. It is a living example that the greatest victories are won in the mind first and then reflected in the world. And so the journey ends where it truly begins, with you standing in the open, the horizon wide before you, the weight of the key you now hold resting in your hand. It is no longer a question of whether you are free. The question now is, what will you build with your freedom? The answer will be your legacy, and your legacy will be the proof that you not only escaped the prison you didn't know you were in, you built a world where others could live without one.